The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the pit complete. That is crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck. The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold. Welcome to Suzuka International Circuit, where we're getting ready to witness the qualifying race for the very first season of the EnduroPro series. And we're going to bring it to you live on the Global Sim Racing channel today. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is our liaison to the HPD, Mr. Kevin Brown. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Joe. I am excited for the start of this great series.
Also with us is the man who will guide you through the Corvettes, Richard Losper. Glad to have you here, Richard.
Glad to be here, Joe. Looking forward to watching these Corvettes go around here.
And next to Richard is our man of the McLarens, the effervescent Dusty Peterson. Always great to have you in the booth, Dusty.
It's really good to be back, Joe. This is going to be a fantastic race. Suzuka is just one of my favorite tracks of all time.
And naturally, behind the scenes is our director, Giancarlo Lindsay, plugging away at all the switches to give you the best view of all the racing action on track. And I have to agree with Dusty, this is a great track here to be at. Suzuka is considered a bit of a classic. And Richard, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this this distinct track?
Absolutely, Joe. Well, it's 3.6 miles of racing surface. There are 17 turns, and we are going to have ourselves a 90-minute race here. It's a tricky track, Joe, very technical. You go down, to the straightaway to turn 1 and 2, which is hard braking and very tricky turn there. Then you go through a series of S's where it's quite hard to keep your car aligned properly for each and every curve. After you've done that, you go into the turns number 7, which is the Dunlop curve, and that just seems to go on forever. And then you go down to Degner 1 and 2, which is 2 right-handers, the last being a 90-degree turn. You go under the bridge and down to a hairpin. Then you've got a long curve once again, and you go down to Spoon at turn number 13. Then you get onto the straightaway that goes on forever, and you have one of the scariest left-hand and fastest left-hand turns in racing called 130R. So, it is going to be a wonderful race if the drivers can get to grips with this great track. It is the scene of many a Grand Prix race, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really great to commentate on it, Joe, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And I have to say, it's a good thing that this track has so much length because we've got, I believe, 29 or 30 cars on track today, so there is going to be a lot of action. And with 3 different classes, it's definitely going to be tough for the drivers. And they're all just distinct in their own way. And in fact, Kevin, what is it about the HPD, the fastest car, that sets it apart from the other 2?
Well, it's got very little weight, weighs only 825 kilograms. That's about 1,800 pounds when dry. It's got quite a bit of horsepower, about 500 horsepower. But its big advantage is it's got lots and lots and lots of aerodynamic grips. So these very fast sweeping corners all around this track, the HPD is going to be able to carry a ton of speed through there. And it's going to have some issues when it's coming up against the slower cars like the C2 Corvettes. So, so to tell us a little bit more about the C2 Corvette, I think we've got Richard right here.
All right, and the C2 Corvette is a lot heavier than the car that Kevin just described. It weighs in at 2,425 pounds. It's got a great engine, a V8 engine, a 6-speed sequential transmission. Lots and lots of power as well, with something like 590 horsepower. But it is a heavy car, and to wheel it around a tight track like this is going to be challenging for all the drivers. So it'll be really interesting who can maneuver the car the best around here. Currently, we have one of the faster drivers there in Ruben who's been doing really well. So, very interesting car. It's won a lot of races in both in the US and in Europe, in the ALMS series, and you know, it's retired now, this particular car that we see here today, but nonetheless it's racing in virtual world, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching it. To tell us a little bit more about the third car in the series is our own Dusty Peterson. Go ahead, Dusty.
Yeah, the McLaren's a car that I've put some time in with myself, and I have to say the MP4 12C is just an absolute thing of beauty in every respect, not just outside but inside. Driving this car is less like wrestling a beast, and it's more like leading a partner in a tango. It just dances. It goes when you want it to go. It turns when you want it to turn. In my time in this car, I found actually that a lot of times it's so accommodating that it's kind of hard to know when you're really over the limit and losing time. I think it's going to be a fantastic combination with the track here at Suzuka, which is a wonderfully flowing track. It's not all just straightaways and sharp turns. It's got a lot of smooth corners, and I think that's where this one's really just going to shine.
And I love that description of the McLaren. It's one of my favorites as well. So that is probably the best way I've ever heard trying to drive that car. But speaking of driving the cars, we actually have a lap around here on board, and we've got Kevin Brown in the HPD, the fastest car, to show us what it's like in these high downforce beasts coming around Suzuka. So let's pull that video up and show you what it's like. All right, let's do a lap around Suzuka International Circuit with Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC HPD. Coming down the front straightaway across the start-finish line, you're heading towards turn 1, but really the important thing of this corner is setting yourself up for 2, and it pretty much is just a single corner as it is. But heavy banking here, you're really going to want to utilize that as it dumps you out into the S's. Now these set of corners, you really got to use the brakes to try and rotate the car, get the front to bite and turn in. But as with all S's, it's always about each subsequent corner, setting yourself up for the next one. On into Dunlop Curve, long left-hander. Stay to the outside until the end, and then duck into the left here and set yourself up for Degner 1. Huge commitment here, just clobber that inside curve, and then same thing for Degner 2. A lot of commitment in that fast corner. Coming up to the hairpin, if you catch someone sleeping, you might be able to make a pass into the hairpin up on the left side. Very slow corner. And once again, focus on your exit, because you're going to be on the gas a while here on this long right-hander, flat out the whole way, and it's going to lead you to Spoon Curve. Now, me personally, I find this to be one of the most irritating corners in all of racing. And really, more importantly, it's one of the most crucial corners on this circuit. Look at how off-camber the last portion of it is, which dumps you right onto the back straightaway, which means you really got to focus on getting the right line through there, so that you're not vulnerable heading towards 130R, and that's coming up right now. Very fast left-hander. You could take it flat out, but just a little bit of a lift here for Kevin, and then it's on into the Casio Triangle. Heavy braking. Another possible passing opportunity. You're going to see guys really try to take their chances in there. From there, you head on to the front straightaway. Hopefully you got a good exit, and maybe you can try to look to the inside into turn 1, but that's a lap around Suzuka International Circuit. And that was just a terrifying lap in some places. I'm glad that Kevin had to do that one and not me. But real quick, we're going to run down the qualifying before they get to the grid here. On the pole in the HPDs, we have João Vaz leading Troy Schultz on the other side of the front row. And then starting the second row is Iker Estefania. Then in fourth, it's Anthony Kopek. Fifth is Anton Volodin. Then sixth is Dennis Guris. Then seventh is Lars Conrad. Eighth is Ramon Salye, and then ninth is Dario Bocanegra, finishing up the HPDs. Starting on the pole for the Corvettes, we'll let Richard take that.
Thank you, Joe. And the pole sitter for the C2 class is Ruben Velasco. Alongside him, we have Francisco Albert, Steve Hobbs, and Aaron Hamilton are in the second row. The third row is made up of Andre Martins and Kevin O'Keefe. The fourth row, Stefan Overgaard and David DeRoche. They are followed by Tim Abbott. And the last of their qualifiers is Manuel Sanchez, who's way down in amongst the MP4s.
And starting the MP4s, we have João Cardoso starting in 19th. Or I'm sorry, starting in first in his class. Andres Almensberger is starting in second in the MP4s. Then Tom Valentini in third. Bjorn Erik Fladmark in fourth. Then Omar Zanchi in fifth. Jaden Conwright in sixth. Jarrett Lawson in seventh. Cedric Finzak in eighth. Ninth is Derek Waller. And finally, rounding out the field is Mark Hewitt. And also, just so that our viewers are aware, the HPDs are referred to as C1 class, the Corvettes are our C2 class, and then C3 is our MP4s. It looks like the cars are getting ready to line up on the grid right now, actually. So they're going to be waiting for the pace car to take off and lead them around pretty soon here. Now, some of the things that we need to talk about, this is just a qualifying race, guys. So these guys aren't going to be as focused, Kevin, as trying to win, as so much as they are just trying to get to the end, it seems.
Right. This is the pre-qualifier for the rest of the series. So this is a non-point scoring round. This is just kind of an interview process, if you will. Make sure that you're able to run with these cars and in traffic for 90 minutes. Make sure that you won't screw everybody up. And but even still, I think there's going to be some bragging rights on display here, as I think guys are going to want to try and show that they've got the speed.
And I just want to go over a few of the guys that I feel like our viewers should watch. We've got a few of them that are pretty fast. Troy Schultz and João Vaz. Definitely we're swapping pole up there in HPDs, Kevin. Those guys seem to be two of the big names that we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. João Vaz is a former iRacing Drivers' World Championship pro. In 2011, he used to run the top flight of the Formula One cars. Troy Schultz is not currently, but he's a past HPD time trial champion, finished second in, I think, the 2012 Season 4 series. So he's very familiar with making that HPD go very fast. João Vaz is clearly very capable of running very fast cars at a high level. So these two guys, I think, are going to put on some great action today.
And who are you keeping your eye on in the Corvettes, Richard? Because I see a fair few decent names in there as well.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. The fastest guy in qualifying was Ruben Velasco, and he will be one to watch. I do notice that he's not taken the grid yet, so I'm wondering what's happening there, but still he has time to get onto the grid. The second guy, Francesco Albert, he is another one to watch. We were also looking to see some good stuff from Stefan Overgaard, but he's a little way down in the field in his class, the C2 class at the moment. Kevin O'Keefe, another gentleman to watch. So, these guys are going to try, as Kevin said, to get the bragging rights and be at the top of the field for when the actual series starts, Joe.
And finally, down in the MP4s, who's got your eye, Dusty? Who do you think is some of the drivers that are really gonna show themselves to be someone to watch this season?
Well, it's a little hard to say for me at this point. I mean, it's a brand new season. We've never seen this group of drivers here together at the same time. We have, I mean, obviously João Cardoso is definitely leading the pack by a good half a second up front, so I think he's going to do solid. But aside from that, if you look down, positions 2, 3, and 4, we're all within a tenth of a second there between those three guys. Even the next four guys there, Omar Zanchi as well. So I think this is going to make for a lot of really close racing. Regardless, it's hard to say who's going to be on top.
Well, we're about to find out because the pace car is getting ready to duck into the pits, and the HPDs C1 are just getting ready to. They're lining up, looking for that green flag, for the green lights to turn on, and there it is right now. João does not have that good of a start. In fact, they are kind of creeping along, it looks like. And I'm not sure if they've taken green or not here. There they go. Now they're taking off. and Zhao is off and away. Troy Schultz is holding him steady. Eicher has dropped back quite a bit, with Anthony Kopak actually getting by him on the outside there. What's it look like in the C2 class, Richard?
Well, C2 has just started their race right now, and we have Ruben Velasco leading them off. On the inside of him at the moment, Albert trying to make a move, but then decided that discretion is the better part of valor, as I usually say. And he's fallen into second place. Steve Hobbs in third, and Aaron Hamilton following them. So basically just in line at the moment, Joe.
And it looks like we've got green for the C3 class as well, Dusty.
Yeah, initially Zhao had a really great start, started immediately pulling away from the rest of the pack. So far it looks like, you know, it's not a big turn one bunch up. Everybody's just kind of lining up and settling in for a long race, which is it's good to see this early on.
Absolutely. Guys are going to have to display patience, I think, throughout this race, that's for sure. I'm looking back up at the C1 since we've gone through all the starts and trying to see how things are looking, and actually it is already kind of spreading out between these guys. Kevin, would you say that's because of the downforce, that it's already causing them to kind of try and get out of each other's blown air?
Downforce and cold tires, and you having the S's right off the bat means that drivers are going to struggle a little bit, and sure enough, that's where we started to see some breaks already. Joao Vaz is very, very quick on cold
already
tires.
Got a spin here. Andreas Allemansberger has just gotten loose on those cold tires in the going into the S's.
And he was in second place, so that's a big blow to him. He's going to have to work his way through. You know, I have to say, Dusty, that's kind of a driver's worst nightmare, to blow it on the first lap, because even though you've got time to make it up, you have to overtake a lot of cars.
Yeah, he's got a lot of time to do it at this point. He didn't drop back too far. He's definitely not at the back of the pack at this point, and fortunately he managed to do it without running into anybody else. So I think he's still got a chance here.
Well, it definitely hasn't allowed João Cardacho to break away, because it looks like Tom Valentini is holding on to him pretty decently. Or, I'm sorry, actually, no, that's a Corvette behind him. That's João Oliveira, so he's kind of mixed up in the wrong class, it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be a bit tricky when we have some of these Corvettes running back with the MP4s. The Corvette is definitely way faster in a straight line, so once we get into the longer parts of the track, they're going to blow past, but they're not that much faster in the corners, and particularly if you have a slower driver in the Corvette, is going to be a little slower in the corners than a fast driver in an MP4.
Now, Richard, what do the stewards have to say about you know, a car not being able to keep up with its class and being mixed up with the wrong one?
Well, in this particular race, I think that they're just going to keep a watching brief on these guys that are slower. But they may end up not having a start in the actual series, Joe.
So I guess Zhao is got to get his pace and get his butt into gear and try and get past Cardoso to try and get himself into this game. So I'm looking through and trying to see who actually has got a good battle going on, because they're just starting to sort themselves out, it seems. And it looks like everybody's just starting to space out, like we were saying. So everyone's being very patient, very different from what we've seen in some other series. So these guys are looking very, very smart, Richard.
And Joe, we just had an exciting moment with Anton Volodin, who got wide on the exit of 130R and spun back across the track, somehow managed to keep it off the wall. But that was a big moment early in the race, so he's probably looking to clean up his act a little bit, so to speak.
And I was watching Stefan Overgaard in the C2 class, and he was going very slow for a moment there, Richard. Did you see what happened?
No, I was watching what was happening just ahead of him, but he has not shown any of the pace that we know he is capable of at any track. And certainly we've seen him in this car previously, and he had really good pace. Not sure what the story is with Stefan, but he's heading into the pits as we speak now, Joe.
So maybe some damage somewhere along the line. In fact, he was squirming a little bit under braking there. We also want to note that there were some non-qualifiers who started from pit lane on this one, so that would explain some of these guys trying to come up through the field slowly but surely. In the meantime, let's hop back up to the front of the C1 class, because I see that Troy is definitely still holding on to the back of Zhao, Kevin.
Yeah, I think Troy might have a little less downforce than Joao Vaz does, because Joao is very fast in the first section of the first half of the track where it's very twisty. But then when they start getting onto straights, Troy definitely catches up very quickly.
And I see that we might have a few technical problems going on, so I apologize if you are noticing anything going on weird with the cameras. We are actually going to go to break just very shortly, try to sort something out, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. We apologize for that brief little interruption. We're looking at João Cardoso, the leader of the MP4s right now. We are only 4 laps into this 90-minute race. We've got a bit of ways to go, so we're very early on. And I have to say that I'm impressed, Dusty, with the way that these guys are driving very cleanly so far, especially with 3 classes on track.
Yeah, I mean, it's hopefully these guys are experienced. I think these guys are all experienced enough to know that this is early in the season. The season hasn't even started yet, so we've got a qualifying race, and it's a long race, 90 minutes. But still, we've had a couple spins. We've got some people in the pits. Even when you're trying to keep it clean, when you got 500 horsepower underneath you, you can't avoid them all.
Well, I'm looking at Jarrett Lawson right now, who's having a great battle going on with, who is that next to him? Omar Zanchi into the hairpin there. And these guys are actually very close together with Jaden Conrad. All 3 of them looking at what I believe is 4th, 5th, and 6th in the C3 class.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not the first, pass that I've seen so far this race. I mean, everybody's running pretty clean, but these guys are still definitely racing, which is pretty obvious. So it's interesting to see. I mean, we're gonna have battles all through this track. It might settle out further on as time goes on, or it might get more and more intense.
Just a quick note: we had Dario Bocanegra lose his nose somewhere along the line, so he has hopped into the pits. But we are going to stick with this battle because this is a great one between Lawson and Zanchi. And these two are just, boy, Jarrett is hassling him at every corner if he can.
And Joe, actually, I want to step in there. That action between for Dario, it looks like he got a little tap from behind by Lars Conrad in Dunlop, and that's what caused him to spin around and hit the wall. So there might be some post-race action about that little incident there.
We might have to see if the stewards have said anything about that, so we'll send someone off to see if we can get any information on that incident, if there's a ruling. But already, guys, are getting a little antsy, so maybe we spoke too soon. People are thinking maybe things have settled down and it's time to move. So I'm still watching this battle between... Actually, Omar has started to drop Lawson, and he's starting to catch up to Conrad, and he is currently holding on to the back of him through the S's. If he's got a good run, Dusty, if I were him, I would say maybe try and just hang back, wait for a mistake, because there's plenty of places to make them around here.
And I got to jump in, I'm sorry, but Joao Vaz and Cedric Finsack almost ran into each other in the S's, Cedric Finsack being in the tail end of the MP4 C3 field, and Joao Vaz being our overall leader, and this is the first time through the lap traffic, and that got a little more exciting than I think they wanted.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention that, let's stay up with this because this is really one of the things, Kevin, that I think is going to make the difference in this race. As actually these back markers are battling each other, so Zhao and Troy have to watch out for these guys in the MP4s. But I have a feeling with the difficulty in trying to pass around here, traffic picks are going to be key.
Yeah, you said it. Traffic picks are absolutely going to be key. It looks like Troy was kind of setting up for that, approaching the hairpin last time by with Mark Hewitt and Mike Sargent in front of him in the C3s. I think Troy was kind of hoping maybe something fancy would happen, but here we go. There's another C3 in front of them on the back straight as they approach 130R. Will both HPDs be able to clear him here? I'm not entirely sure. Troy's a little far back, but looks like he's going to at least look.
And just a note, Mark Hewitt did manage to make something and get by, Sargent got by Hewitt back in C3 class as those guys were going by. But yeah, now they're starting to deal with all these MP4s, and it looks like Zhao's got a bit of a break right now, and he's actually going to get a good timing right here trying to get by Andreas Almensberger and that MP4, so he's going to slip on by. Meanwhile, Troy Schultz, though, is a ways back, so he might be having some trouble because he's going to be stuck behind him all through the S's.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate spot for Troy. He kind of got caught out at 130R there, wasn't quite sure what to do. And looks like, Joe, we've just been updated. Lars Conrad has been given a black flag for that for that contact that he had with Dario Bocanegra.
And Lars was sitting in 8th place before that black flag, so he is going to slip down even further. He's going to have a lot of work to do. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only person he's going to be able to run with at that point is Dario, unless someone else makes a mistake along the line. So bad start to his season there, Kevin.
And it looks like Dario has actually retired from the race. It sounds like his damage probably terminal. So that is a 30-second penalty that we've got for Lars Conrad there.
Oof. So just goes to show you how important clean driving is. The stewards expect a lot of these guys. Really expect them to race clean as hard as they are fair. And it looks like our HPD leaders are actually still trying to get through traffic. And Omar Zanchi just gets by Jaden Conwright for the 4th position in the C3 class.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, I didn't quite have my eyes on that one. I was checking out some of the traffic. There was a lot of tight movements with the C1 class making it through the back end of the C3 class.
And how is that affecting some of these guys in the MP4s? I mean, when you've got one of these faster cars coming up behind you in mixed class racing, Dusty, what kind of things do you have your eyes on?
Well, it can be tricky. You have to make some judgment calls because a lot of times you want to move across the track to keep your line. The fast car coming up behind you should be expecting that, but you have to make a judgment call. Okay, is he gonna see me move over? Do I want to get in front of him and get so I can keep my fast line, or I want to go ahead and shave off maybe or lose a couple seconds, let him go by just to avoid an accident?
It sounds like we had some excitement going on with Troy Schultz as well there.
Yeah, he had a nice little 3-wide moment with 2 other C3 McLarens, or 2 C3 McLarens, I should say, and then trying to catch back up to Joao Vaz in turn 1. Troy got super sideways on the exit of turn 2, but somehow managed to roll it back in. And now you can see he's right back on the tail of Joao Vaz. So this battle has once again resumed as traffic has had its part in separating the battle and then rejoining them back up.
Yeah, definitely something of a yo-yo fight going on, that you lose ground into the gain ground, which seems to be just a feature of mixed class racing for those unfamiliar.
Yeah, and again, I kind of want to go back to the downforce that I was talking about a little bit earlier. I got this creeping suspicion that Joao Vaz is on a higher downforce setup, I should say, than Troy Schultz. And I think that might actually give an advantage to Troy dealing with the traffic. It's going to make him a little bit easier to get around traffic for him than I think it is for Joao Vaz. Well, I don't know. I just had this creeping suspicion that Troy's on a less downforce, and it's going to serve him well later in the race.
And you mentioned some of these top guys, like Troy and Zhao, are upper-class drivers who are used to cars like the FW32, from what I understand, the Formula One car. How does that affect their knowledge of driving a car like this, especially in traffic?
Well, the Williams FW31 doesn't really have to deal too much with GT cars around it very often, so that experience doesn't apply over too much. But certainly, Joao Vaz, I didn't see, I don't think he has a lot of history running in mixed class endurance racing before, at least none that I'm aware of. So this may be a new aspect to his racecraft that we haven't seen yet. Troy Schultz, however, I know is very, very familiar with running with the Corvettes and the McLarens. So this shouldn't be too unique for him. The only difference is the race length itself.
Well, we've talked about the HPDs a lot, and we've talked about C3 and the MP4s a lot. We haven't paid attention to C2 much. Richard, what's been going on back there?
Well, Joe, these guys have been pretty much single file since the beginning of the race. There's only really been one overtaking maneuver that was completed successfully, and that was from David DeRoche on Tim Abbott quite a few laps ago now. But other than that...
Oh, I'm sorry. David DeRoche actually just spun right now into Spoon Curve. And that was what exactly was going on. Let's look at the replay of that. It looks like he was coming up fast, and an MP4 in front of him, C3 car, just tried to get out of the way, and poor David had nowhere to go, lost control, spun it around. There was slight contact made, but they both recovered. They're both continuing on.
Yes, it looks like David DeRoche is back on track again. These guys are, well, all the cars are now intermixed. I mean, the C3s have well and truly been caught by both the HPDs as well as the C2s, the Corvettes. And so it's making life difficult for these two faster cars. But as I was going to say, Ruben Velasco is definitely in charge of the C2 class at the moment. He's leading. Francesco Albert is pushing hard to keep up with him. The yo-yo effect is definitely happening, as well as Kevin mentioned, in that they come close together, but then once again Ruben Velasco pulls away. Although at this point in time, Albert is very close to him, but then again we just have Velasco getting away as we go down towards Spoon Curve. Aaron Hamilton has been in a distant third place. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but there has been a change for the overall lead. Troy Schultz is now our overall leader. Joao Vaz accidentally got into the back of the Corvette of, I believe it was, I just lost it. I'm sorry. Manuel Sanchez in turn 2, and Troy Schultz is our overall leader now.
And I have to imagine these cars are a bit fragile with all those little aero parts, so I'm wondering if he sustained any damage from that little touch, Kevin.
We just had a collision, another multi-class collision like we were talking there. It looks like we had one of the C1 cars slowing down. I don't know if it was a result of that last one. We had an MP4 get right up into his tail and spun him out.
Can you see which cars which drivers that were?
I'm looking now. I didn't quite get a good look. I think it might have been Jarrett Lawson. Yeah, it was Jarrett Lawson that got into the back of the MP4. Let me see if I can find out. That was definitely Dennis Garis.
This is getting really interesting. Sorry for butting in there, guys, but now we are having the HPDs, Joe, starting to catch up to the C2 class, the Corvettes. And this is making life interesting because there is not that great a speed differential between the two cars, particularly on the straightaway. And the HPDs are, putting their power down in the turns, as we have a situation here just in front of Joe Vaz, and that was Tim Abbott, one of the slower Corvettes, just being overtaken by Joe Vaz and the guy in front of him, which was Troy Schultz. And there was really, or so I should say nearly, collision there. And Troy Schultz is lucky to get away with that one, Joe.
Yeah, in fact, he was being very gutsy, trying to just sneak in the inside of Derek Waller in the C3 class there. Kevin, these guys are getting extremely aggressive. We went from calm and cool to a war zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see if there's any damage on Troy Schultz on the side of his car. It looked like, because it looked to me like he got into the side of that Corvette. Joao Vaz definitely has a little bit of damage to his front end, so he's going to be struggling a little bit on this track. And then Dennis Garis and Anton Volodin a couple laps ago got into each other at the hairpin. That damaged Dennis Garis, and I think that may have been the start of that contact that he had with the slower class.
In fact, Dennis Garis is not on track right now, so I think he must have had to get it towed into the pits here. So his race could be over depending on how much damage he had. Things are really taking off everywhere. It's a bit chaotic. I'm sorry, just have something to say, Dusty?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just like the bit with Dennis Grease there, I took a look back at it and looked like he had just spun off the track and he was re-entering and hadn't quite gotten back up to pace yet, and that's why he had Jarrett Lawson get into the back of him.
So things are really kicking off as drivers are starting to deal with the reality of 3 different classes on one track, and I'm seeing that
Joe, sorry, you got it. Joao Vaz is in pit lane right now. Not really sure why he's in so early. Maybe he just can't deal with this damage. Oh, excuse me. He's been black flagged. He's got a 30-second penalty for that contact that he had earlier with Manuel Sanchez.
I kind of figured that would be the case with how harsh the stewards have been, that seemed like just a slam dunk case. Interclass traffic is very much, or interclass contact is very much frowned upon in this series, so these guys are going to have to pay attention, maybe exercise a bit more patience. I think they're starting to learn a few lessons the hard way.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You know, the saving benefit here is this is not a point-scoring round for these guys, so they'll have to use this as a lesson to learn with that. Hey, you can't make contact. And it looks like there's a Corvette in the wall. Not sure who that was. Richard?
That was, I think it might have been Kevin O'Keefe. Maybe, I'm not quite sure, but Troy Schultz just came up and passed him at huge speed, and I'll just keep checking while you guys are carrying on.
Well, in the meantime, I'm hopping back to C3 class because Zanchi and Fladmark are really going at it, and that is for the final podium spot in that class at the moment with these guys. And in fact, they're coming up on second place as well, so we've got a train of second, third, and fourth all together with Valentini up in front of them.
We've got Aaron Hamilton in the pits now, so I'm wondering if that was the car that was in the wall there. I'm pretty sure it was, but if so, he's taken a tow and he's sitting in the pits now, Joe.
So damage for him as well, and it looks like we've got Joao Vaz blasting through these C3 cars right now that I was watching in second, third, and fourth, Dusty. So he'll break this up just a bit for a moment, but then they'll be able to get back to their battle as I see Zanchi is closed right up on Fladmark coming towards the hairpin.
Yeah, we do have what's building up to be a pretty good 3-car battle there in the C3 class. Just had my eyes on that too. Was wondering if maybe Vass there was going to break up the battle a little bit, but he made it through clean, and looks like these guys are getting bumper to bumper.
Yeah, heading towards Spoon Curve at the moment. I'm sorry, what was that, Kevin?
That was not me, but I'll just give you an update. Dravez, yep, definitely back on track. Still with some damage on the front end of his car, but clicking off some pretty good times so far right now.
And I just want to say, Joe, that definitely Aaron Hamilton was the guy in the wall there. He's taken a tow and he's got a very long pit stop in front of him. Getting back on track will be a little while for him yet. In the meantime, our guys, Ruben Velasco and Albert, have kept it clean all the way through all the traffic and all the drama, and they are running first and second in C2 class.
And Dusty, it looks like Jarrett Lawson was black flagged and given 30-second penalty for avoidable contact as well.
That's interesting. I wonder if that was the same contact that we were looking at before with the C1 class car, Dennis Garisi. You know, he had gone off the track. He'd come back on the track pretty slow, so I don't know if I would call that unavoidable. There might have been something else happening there that I didn't see.
Yeah, it could be a tough judgment call, but we'll have to, excuse me, we'll have to pass off that judgment to the stewards since they have their eyes on everything and have the time to really inspect that. Back to that battle, though, that we were watching, Dusty. These guys are really close together now, and they're coming up to Degner. I'm wondering if we'll see anybody make an attempt into the hairpin.
I imagine so. I mean, you know, every lap I've been seeing Bjorn come right up on the tail of Tom. A lot of that's you know, just the draft effect and everything like that. You get that a bit of that yo-yo, but I think he's really positioning himself to make a move pretty soon.
Now, if you were with these 3 cars, if you were Omar Zanchi, the 3rd car in line there, what would your thought process be? Because obviously you've got these 2 guys in front of you that want to battle, but you want to get in the mix too.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just waiting for those guys to you know, get side to side and start slowing them down. Maybe one of them make a mistake and then slide right on by. He's got a pretty good opportunity here.
Heading through Spoon Curve now, they're still all together. They're all very close in pace. and we're only 12 laps in. In fact, we've got, it looks like about an hour and 5 minutes left, so we're nearly a third through this race. Pit stops are going to be coming into play soon, I would imagine, because these guys will have to have at least one with limited fuel.
And guys, I just want to mention quickly that Troy Schultz, the leader of the HPD class, the C1 class, has now passed the leaders in the C2 class. So he's gone past Ruben Velasco and Francisco Albert. So 12 laps it's taken the leader to lap all the cars.
Yeah, it didn't take very long for this to really get mixed up and a lot of guys be in amongst each other's classes. And I see Omar Zanchi take just a little bit of a look into turn one, but definitely wasn't close enough to make anything happen. And we've been watching these guys and just kind of feeling things out, Dusty, as to how they'll behave in all this traffic and around other cars. What's your impression so far as we get to know these drivers in this new series?
Well, I mean, right up front with the C3 class, you got João Cordojo, and he's like a lot of the iRacing pole sitters, he's got a good pace. He's just sticking to it. He's hanging way up front where he's comfortable being. These other guys with the multi-classic, it's really hard to tell because you get used to driving with the car next to you that's going the same speed, and then somebody else comes up, and it kind of mixes everything up. So. I think the C3 drivers, I think you've seen a lot of smoothness with these guys. Watching the McLarens go is always fantastic. You see these guys getting sideways here and there and pulling right out of it. It's hard to say at this point.
In the meantime, I see that Lars Conrad had an off at the hairpin, just managed to keep it out of the barriers, but he just simply outbraked himself. He was getting through some C3 traffic very well, and then I guess the difficulty of focusing on too many things at once got him out there, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't quite catch that battle. I was looking at Iker Stefania and, who was it, Ruben Velasco, just about getting into it in the S's together. So that almost some intra-class contact once again. These guys are possibly going a little too hard for the first round of this series when they know that the stewards are making no bones about giving out penalties for intra-class contact. These guys, they're just pushing it a little too much for my liking.
Yeah, and something I think that also to take note of is that with this being the first race, and these guys are going to be racing with each other for, 12 whole races throughout the season. I mean, they're basically establishing a reputation amongst each other, so you need to be careful about how you shake hands and say hello.
Yeah,
well, guys,
absolutely.
I've got to tell you that I am really liking the looks of Ruben Velasco. He's very smooth in that car, the Corvette, which is very difficult to drive or to keep in a straight line, particularly on a track like this. And the second place guy in C2, which is Francisco Albert, equally, these two guys are really showing how it should be done in this particular car.
Yeah, I've been kind of keeping half an eye on them for most of the race, Richard, and I agree. These guys are just keeping a steady pace. They're very close in pace, it seems, so they're not really dropping each other. So, but there seems to be quite a bit of patience between them. They're just not pushing things. They're holding on, and in fact, they've got a large distance back to third place Steve Hobbs. So whatever they're doing, they're certainly doing it right.
Absolutely, and they've done this from lap one. Just kept it steady when there was the faster HPDs coming through. They allowed them room to pass very easily. These guys know what they're doing behind the wheel of these cars, there's no doubt.
Oh, and our battle for second place in C3 was just broken up by some more multi-class contact. We had Bjorn there get into, looks like it was Lars Conrad.
Yeah, we're watching the replay right now, and it looks like, let's see, HPD just sent up the inside. Yeah, oh, wow. I have to put that one on the HPD. That was a very late dive. And poor Bjorn, I guess he didn't expect, because he went for the apex, and suddenly there's an HPD there. So I'm kind of wondering how the stewards are going to see that one.
Yeah, again, that's one of those moments where, Bjorn, he probably deserved to have that line, and he knew that HPD was coming up behind him, and he had a judgment call there to make as to whether he wanted to try to keep in the pack as close with the people that he was racing against as possible, or give that HPD the line through, and he chose not to, and it bit him.
And I feel bad for Bjorn because I'm looking, he is currently down in 6th, and he was up in that battle for 2nd, so he's lost a lot of positions, a lot of time, and we don't know actually if that car is damaged in its handling. It looks decent. What can you see from your view, Dusty?
I can't imagine he didn't get a little roughed up from that one. It was a pretty tough tap, but it really depends on you know, on where he hit on the car and everything like that. So we'll just have to see.
We also getting word that DeRocha is off. Have you seen anything? What's gone on with that, Richard?
Actually, to be honest, I haven't been watching DeRocha recently. I've been keeping an eye on the other C2 driver, Stefan Overgaard, to watch his progress. But just looking at DeRocha now, he's back on track and seemingly okay.
It looks like he got a little bit scared. He got kind of squirrely in the braking to spoon, and he had an HPD inside of him. So he just lost control and spun himself off by himself from what I'm seeing. So, like you said, he is back on the track and going, and he is kind of clear of everybody, currently holding down 5th in C2. So not much of a threat for him. He's just got to try and hold on and just hold a steady pace at this point. So things are really getting wild here. I haven't seen any pit stops as far as regular pit stops going on. I don't know if you guys have spotted anybody going in for a regular stop yet.
No, I haven't seen anything. Our leaders in C2 certainly are going out there, although I'm just getting the feeling here, Joe, that the leader, Ruben Velasco, his tires might be going off at this point, because he seems to be having a little difficulty through some of the turns. So I'm expecting that pit stops will be coming soon, certainly for the C2 class.
Yeah, I was watching Velasco just through 130R there, and he's doing fine through Casio right now, but he very much missed the apex through 130R, which isn't too tough to do, but it might be like you say, his tires could be going off, he could be getting some push possibly. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the tires, but how do those play out? Like, do they wear out the fronts first, the backs first? Whoa, and actually, there was a very close moment, between Velasco and a C3 car. That was Bjorn, actually, and just squeezed in there. That was a gutsy move.
Yeah, it's getting to that time. I think, I'm not sure about C1, but certainly at this point in time, the C2 will be showing a lot of tire wear, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be in the pits very soon. I did notice that Tim Abbott is already in the pits. I'm not sure why he's there. I think it may be a regular pit stop. But I'll keep an eye on these leaders here, both Velasco and Albert, to see when they pit, Joe.
Yeah, and back to my point on the tires, what would your preference be as far as the pit strategy goes with these things? You want to get those tires off first and run a long stint at the end? Or would you prefer to try and hold on to it as long as you can and set yourself up to be strong towards the end of the race, have fresh tires?
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, we talk a lot about strategy in all the classes that we follow. I'm not 100% sure of the strategy here with the C2 class, but you know, this being the first race, I think I'd be in kind of test mode to see how my tires are. So I'd be inclined to run as long as I can to see exactly how long I can go on these tires, because when we get to the real races, they're all going to be 90 minutes or 2 hours. And we want to know exactly what our tires are going to do in the real races. So I'd be sticking out there, Joe.
Meanwhile, let's hop up to C1, because there's a battle going on between what looks like João Vaz and Ramon Salles. In fact, they've got some traffic. They're coming up to 130R. This is not a good situation that's setting up now. It looks like there was a pick almost, and yes, that gives Salles just a little bit of breathing room as they just get past coming at the 130R. Kevin, that was quite a moment.
Yeah, and João Vaz, he's looking on the inside of the triangle. They're going to make contact, and João Vaz definitely punched his way through there. I'm not sure how the stewards are going to look at that. I'm sure Ramon's not entirely thrilled about that one. But the net result is that João Vaz is currently in front of Ramon Salles.
Yeah, they were closing up fast on some more traffic, and poor Salles didn't have anything to do except try and ease up. And that was a bit opportunistic, but at the same time, I have to agree with you. That was kind of rough trying to squeeze his way through there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that move. Definitely, Joao had been looking for at least the last lap, trying to get around Ramon. I think he was quite a bit quicker and kind of poked his nose in several places, but couldn't make anything happen. And that may have been a little too aggressive. They're probably both lucky that they're still on track right now.
And somewhere along the line, we missed that Anton Volodin got past as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ramon Sales just spun in the S's and backed it into the wall. His car does not look very good right now.
Side-to-side contact. Do you think that maybe he damaged the suspension?
It's possible. He had definitely had damage on the car. His aero was definitely screwy, but now his car is in really bad shape. I think he's gonna have to bring it into pit lane and get some repairs in effect.
Well, we'll send someone off to see what the stewards have to say about that, because we need to. That was definitely a sketchy move, but Vaz could be looking at possibly his second penalty of the race if they are frowning upon that. And he is currently sitting in fourth, so he was making progress. This is going to hurt him even more, but he had a long ways to go to get up to Anthony Kopech. So I definitely think we're seeing that keeping your nose clean is going to be the way forward in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if we got a touch on it, but Anton Volodin also got a black flag penalty for contact with the 116.
Wow, and that would be trying to see which car that is. Actually, that's Dennis Garis, actually, that he got contact with. That was quite a while ago. So that black flag might have been a while ago. I'm not exactly sure what when that black flag was given out for him. Meanwhile, let's jump back through some of the other classes since we've watched the HPDs and those things have settled themselves out. What's going on in C2, Richard?
Well, to be honest, not a lot at this stage, although there are things happening around these cars all the time. But our leader, Ruben Velasco, is still out there, hasn't come into the pits yet. And we do have a situation where he's just leading. Second place is still Albert. Third place now held down by Steve Hobbs. So pretty steady as she goes there, Joe.
Yeah, in fact, I'm hopping back down to C3 because we do have something a bit brewing here. Omar Zanchi once again with Tom Valentini for second place here. These guys are still going at it. In fact, they've got a C2 car coming through them. That is Stefan Oergaard trying to blast through before 130R. This is going to be a bit tight. Just sneaks by Valentini before 130R, so that battle is going to be able to continue, Dusty.
Yeah, definitely. Those guys have been going close at it for a while. They've got a little space in between them now. It looks like I don't know if there's some more C2 traffic coming up through. It's going to split them up a little bit more. Another couple of things I've been looking at. João Cordojo has been, he's got a really good lead, but I've been watching his lap times. He just set a really good fast lap, a 2 minutes flat. But before that, he was, I think, maybe losing, keeping pace or losing a little bit ground with the guys behind him. Maybe he was just playing a little conservative because he knew he had a gap. But that aside, we've also got Bjorn and Andreas Alemansberger, and those guys got knocked back from some traffic and collisions and everything like that. But I think their cars are going okay because, again, lap time-wise, they're keeping up with Tom Valentini and Omar Zanchi as well. So we could see getting back up to a four-way battle for second at some point.
Yeah, and speak of the devil, and he appears. It looks like João Vaz, who is currently going between Hobbs and Vladimir. I'm sorry. It was Vaz who actually did get a black flag for reckless driving, so his second penalty of the day. He is not making a good impression in this very first race.
Yeah, that was for a dive bomb, would you believe? Which is exactly what he did, and we called it as such at the time. So having a few problems, our friend there.
I think he's going to have to learn to rein that eagerness in and try and be a little bit more patient through this series. At least, hopefully, he's learning it. This is race 0, not even the first official race of the series. So definitely some things for him to take forward and maybe try to sharpen his skills in all this multi-class traffic as the season goes on.
And he's off track. He was off track there. Sorry, Kevin, I'm calling out in your area at this point in time. I'll shut up now and let you go.
Oh no, that's all right, Richard. So I'm not entirely sure how he did that. He went wide in the long sweeping right. That's the approach to Spoon Curve. So I don't know if he was just kind of bemoaning his lot there internally or what. But that's a very strange place to go off the track.
Yeah, the thing is, Kevin, I'm thinking that the speed differential between these HPDs and all the other cars is so huge. These guys have to be really careful. They come up on a slower car really fast, as we see Vaz going into the pits now, probably to serve his black flag. But what do you think? I mean, can that catch some drivers out a little bit?
Well, that was my concern with Joao Vaz, is that, I'm not sure that he has a lot of experience with mixed class racing, so it's conceivable that he's just not used to this. This is not a skill that he's built up yet. I'm certain that he definitely has the solo speed to run well, but so far it looks like his speed amongst traffic is lacking a little bit. And it sounds like there's been yet another black flag assigned. This time it's to Anthony Kopeck.
Interesting.
Contact.
I had completely missed that, and he's actually missing his nose. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. He's missing his nose. So somewhere it looks like he got into the back of Tim Abbott. We'll try and see if we can't find that.
Yeah, I'm looking back through the footage here, and it looks like the missing nose is his own doing. Oof! He was in the S's, and he went head on into the tires. So he is definitely going to have some handling problems after that, I imagine. But I haven't quite figured out where the contact was. Regardless, things went south in a hurry.
And, Joe, I'm getting word from the stewards that was on lap 11 with Tim Abbott. So that was about 12 laps ago. Stewards still trying to get back to some of the action that happened earlier in the race.
Yeah, I guess they've been keeping busy. You know, you mentioned Joao Vaz trying to learn his way through this, trying to learn multi-class traffic, because it is definitely a skill you need to learn in this type of racing. Troy Schultz, I think you said, has done quite a bit in the HPD, which is a multi-class car in the official iRacing series. He has got a 13-second lead over Iker right now, so it's definitely paying dividends that experience is on his side.
Yeah,
it's
actually,
one of those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, thanks, Dusty. I was just going to say, just a couple of laps ago, that gap was only about 6 seconds. And then Troy Schultz responded, putting down a lap time that was faster than nearly very close to his qualifying time, and has continued to put down some good laps. But, I think you're absolutely right that right now Troy Schultz's experience with this traffic is showing up in droves right now.
And what were you going to say, Dusty? I was curious to hear your thoughts on that situation.
Oh, just, to quote a terrible cliche, with great horsepower comes great responsibility. I've run multi-class with like the Mustangs and the Daytona prototypes in the Grand Am series, and the speed difference between those cars is massive. And just when you're being in those fast cars, it's really tempting to want to pass people because we're racers and we love passing people, but it's just all about patience. You just have to give up the time, and you have to wait for the time to pass the people in the back, because they have just as much right to the track as you do.
Yeah, and you have to also consider one thing that I mentioned earlier was your reputation. If you start to become someone that your fellow drivers trust, then you're basically making friends on the track. Even though you're all racing each other, if there's someone in another class, they're gonna they see you coming up, they see you're in a battle, and they know they've got no one they're up against, they're probably going to be more likely to make room for you, because they know that you're someone that they can trust to behave well and make the right move and pass in the right places.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I love most about racing is this simultaneous combination of competition and cooperation that all of the drivers have to be involved with all of the time. Nobody gets through the finish if you're not, working with the people next to you, but at the same time, you're trying to get there first as hard as you can.
Well, as we watch Troy continue on his way around, let's hop back through. Actually, let's run through the order before we really get into pit stops here, because we haven't done that yet. So let's go through the top 5 in each class real quick. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Joe, we are on board with Joao Vaz as he approaches 130R. Maybe it's just time to let the car speak for itself right now.
Absolutely. Let's see what it looks like on board with him, with the guy that is probably the most antsy driver around here. as he's coming through turn 1 at the moment up into the S's. And this is really where the car shows its prowess. Just as you said, Kevin, high downforce through here, left and right, back and forth, change of direction incredibly quick.
Yes, very difficult. You're really kind of struggling with the balance of the car a little bit. This is where all that downforce helps, especially as you come through Dunlap. Super, super, super fast on the approach to Degner. Again, very fast. Watch out for that McLaren in front of you. Yep, we're going to hold up and we're going to wait through. Oh, boy, as that McLaren goes wide, that's a little exciting.
Yeah, it's another thing that you have to watch out for. The guys in front of you can make mistakes, and when that happens, it's like we keep saying, it's a judgment call. And on into the hairpin, very slow corner. And another thing that I don't think we've mentioned, Kevin, is that these cars are not very powerful in the in slow parts. It seems like they don't have very much oomph in the low revs.
Yeah, these cars are all about maintaining that high-end speed. If you can stay there, you're just going to scream right along. But when you have to slow down for these first-gear corners, it's just torture. It seems like it takes forever to get going. But, you know, to make sure that you've got that downforce working, you need lots of speed, and it's just not there at the slow corners. And so that's just, you know, it just feels terrible in those hairpins. But at fast corners like 130R right there, that's where you love that downforce.
Absolutely. Well, now that we've hopped off board and we've seen what it's like with going around with Zhao, why don't we go through the standings real quick before the pit stops kick off so that we can get our viewers an idea of where things stand. Like we said earlier, Troy Schultz just dominating the field with a 15-second lead at the moment. Iker Estefania in second. Anton Volodin holding on to third. Zhao Vaz, despite 2 penalties, is still in fourth. And Anthony Kopech down in fifth in the C1 class at the moment. What's C2 looking like, Richard?
Well, in C2, nothing has changed. Ruben Velasco doing it very comfortably at this point in time in first place in the C2 class. Francisco Albert not that far behind him in second place. Steve Hobbs quite a ways back in third place. Kevin O'Keefe currently coming into the pits now, Joe, but he was in fourth place. And David DeRoche in fifth place. He's still out on track.
Meanwhile, down in C3, probably the most popular class. Dusty, what are the top 5 there?
Well, we still got João Cardozo running out in front, but he has not pitted yet. I have a feeling he's going to keep his position, though. He had a pretty solid lead. The battle for second to third has been broken up a little bit because Omar Zanchi, we had second, we had Tom Valentini, and Omar Zanchi is third, but Omar Zanchi, while still in third, has just pitted. Then we have Bjorn Erik Fladmark in fourth, followed by Andreas Alemansberger, and both of those have now pitted. So we have Mark Hewitt and then Mike Sargent in sixth.
So it sounds like pit stops are actually kicking off right now, so we might have picked just the right time to try and get through this before things really get mixed up. And we haven't talked a lot about the pit stop strategy, Dusty, but this is something that guys need to think about because with the difficulty in passing in some places, maybe some of them are thinking leapfrog.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of the MP4 drivers are just kind of holding out as long as they can in a lot of cases. It might be a tires thing. If you watch Tom Valentini quite a bit, who's just pulling into the pits now, you would have noticed over the last few laps that he's getting sideways almost more often than not in a lot of these corners. So it'll be interesting to see how the racing continues once they got fresh tires.
Yeah, what do these drivers have to watch out for with the tires on the MP4s? Is it something that they got to really treat them nice, or can they be pretty aggressive?
Well, like I was saying earlier, the MP4 is very forgiving. So when the tires get hot, the car will get a bit loose, but it's not really going to snap over on you. So you've got a lot of play. So you can be pretty aggressive for quite a bit, and it's more of a sliding scale with these cars. So it really depends. I mean, if you look at the leader Zhao, who is now in the pit, so all the front of the pack and the MP4s have pitted at this point. But if you watch him, he drives really clean. I think he does really good at keeping it nice close to the line. And Tom, who's in second, you can see is a much more aggressive driver. And he gets sideways a lot. He kind of drifts it around a bit more. And yet their lap times aren't all that different.
So it all seems dependent on driver style, which way you want to attack it, and each guy is able to kind of make it work in his own way. Tom is just coming out now. Where's Omar? Because those guys were pretty close. You mentioned before, it looks like he is just going to close up on the tail, so no change, but their battle is going to resume here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping to see. I mean, those guys were running really close. They pit near each other. If they both got clean pits, they should be pretty much back to where they were.
And we are just past halfway. We've got 40 minutes left on the clock here. So these guys are past the hump, so to speak, and it's starting to think maybe pacing wise. Think just get to that end portion, that last bit, and then really push. So we've got quite a bit going on as these pit stops go, so why don't we take just a short break as pit stops sort themselves out, we let guys get their strategy play out, and then we can come back and figure out where everybody stands. We're going to take you to some music and to some commercials. We'll see you on the other side.
We've got sporadic contacts all along the northern road. We are now set up on Kilo Lima Mike November 2. There is a sniper on the roof watching our positions and watching any incoming. I'll copy.
Too sentimental, I won't ever treat you gentle. Take it all too hard, and I will walk right out the door. Better not get into my head with emotions that's left unsaid. I don't need your baggage or your feelings or remorse. It's better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud, better when it's hard, better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud. It's better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud. Better when it's hard. Better when it's fast. Tears overrated. Goes on me. I got no patience. Whisper in my ear. If you want to be ignored, I'm no good at reading signals. This way, that way. There's no right way. Going round in circles. I'm too busy to perform. 'Cause it's better when it's loud. It's better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud. Better when it's hard. Better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud. It's better when it's fast. It's better when it's loud.
Welcome back after that commercial break. We are we're just past halfway into this race. We're watching Omar Zanchi, who's currently holding down third in the C3 class in that MP4. And as the race has progressed, there have been a lot of victims that have dropped out there. Just a bunch of guys that didn't quite make the cut because of problems of their own or problems in interclass traffic. Dario Bocanegra is out, it seems. Andre Martins is out. Tim Abbott is out of this race. Manuel Sanchez is out. Dennis Garis is out. Aaron Hamilton is out. Jay Van der Geest is out. Chris Nautrup is out. João Oliveira is the final car on track, and he is actually not even in the right class. He is C2, so he is a long way back, but that is a lot of cars gone. But in the meantime, we've been kind of watching, Dusty, Omar and Valentini.
Yeah, Omar just finally overtook Valentini. Looks like Valentini got a little bit loose under braking and had to run off track a little bit, and Omar finally had his moment to get past.
I apologize, I completely missed that, but hopefully we got that on screen. And yeah, that's something that you have to consider in these long endurance races. Sometimes you just got to wait for that mistake from the guy in front.
Yeah, and what we're really going to find out here, Omar's been hanging right behind Valentini this whole time. So the question is he faster than Valentini and was just waiting for his moment to get past? And will he now break away, or are these guys going to keep going back and forth?
Good question. Up ahead of him, João Cardoso continues to lead. I believe he has since the start in the C3 class, and he's got quite a few seconds ahead of him, so he's very comfortable. If Omar's going to make something happen, now is the time to really put the foot down and try to make some inroads before the end of the race so that he can get in touch. It looks like Tom hasn't dropped back. In fact, he's keeping good touch with Omar right now, Dusty.
Yeah, actually, I just saw Omar kind of overcook it there in the corner. It looked like he might have come in a little bit too fast, and I saw some smoke coming off his tires. That certainly allowed Tom to make that time back up.
So these two keeping it close together throughout most of the race. And in fact, I believe this is the first time that Omar has been leading Tom, but he's definitely been within a few seconds throughout the entire time. These two are going to have to keep a close eye on each other and just try to take what opportunities come. We're getting word that actually Lars Conrad is trying to chase down Kopech in the HPD, Kevin.
Yeah, you said it. They're in Degner 1 and 2 right now. Or excuse me, they're a little further beyond than that. I was just looking at a replay of them. And looks like Conrad actually did just get by. No, Kopech a minute ago. So Kopech's got that damage on the front of his car, and it's definitely holding him up. And Conrad is able to squeak by.
Well, it's not over yet because Lars just got shocked by what looked like a C3 car and went way too deep. In fact, he's got to slow down as he cut the Casio triangle, and that has allowed Kopech to get right on back by.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. It looks like Kopech's running high 1:50s right now, which is about 8 to 9 seconds off the pace of what an HPD should be able to do at this point in the race. So it shouldn't be too difficult for Lars Conrad to catch back up and get back around.
Now, as I've been watching Lars throughout this race, even though he's holding down 7th in class right now, it seems like he's been struggling. He's outbraked himself a number of times, doesn't quite have a handle on this car. What do you know about Lars? Is he new to this car?
He's got a handful of races in the HPD. I believe that he's a big fan of Silverstone. Ran a bunch there at in the HPD series whenever he could. But you know, Suzuka's definitely a difficult track. It's definitely a difficult track in the HPD, even more so. And maybe that's just coming to bite Lars a little bit.
Yeah, you could see him having trouble there coming out of Degner, too. Just got a little bit loose, but he's holding it together. It seems like he's trying to be patient behind Kopech at the moment. He knows that he's got damage, and he knows that he's going to get a chance to get by. He just has to wait for the right time to try and sneak on through as they come up to João Cardoso, the leader in C3. See if he can make something happen up in a spoon curve here. He takes a little bit of a look, but decides not to. Maybe going to try and wait for 130R once again.
Yeah, I think the smart bet here is, you know, you've had a bunch of contacts. You know, squeak by on the back straight here, one of the cars, and deal with the next one on another straight.
Yep, and they're getting ready to clear that C3 car, and he's getting very close, coming up to 130R. Just backs out and lets that HPD through. Coming up to braking, maybe this is going to be the opportunity for Lars. Closes quite a bit, just looks on the inside, and it looks like Kopech is going to just let him on through. He knows that there's no point in trying to defend that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Conrad may have actually gotten a little startled there by Anthony Kopech. Seems like he got a little close under braking. Maybe he's not quite aware that Kopech just doesn't have that braking capability right now without a front wing.
Whatever the case, the pass is done and dusted, so Lars moves himself up into 6th, another position gone. We've got half an hour to go. We are into the final third of this race. I believe pit stops should all be done at this point, guys. So now guys are settled down. Should just be a matter of fighting it out on the track, Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the final class, we've got things kind of spreading out a little bit. João Cordojo still way out in front. The gap between Omar Azanchi and Tom Valentini is opening slightly, but they're still basically together. I would really like to see Bjorn and Andreas, catch up, just to get a little more, excitement there. I think their pace is good enough a lot of times that they might be able to make it, but it's going to be down. The real excitement's going to be down between Omar and Tom.
And speaking of looking for excitement, poor Richard, I feel like we haven't gone to you a whole lot, but it seems like you've had pretty much steady as she goes through your whole field this race.
Yes, that's correct. I have been watching the leaders in this class, the C2 class, Ruben Velasco and Francisco Albert, just cruise around this track almost in autopilot. I did see...
I'm sorry
Velasco...
to interrupt, but we've got a battle going on in HPD class here between João Vaz and someone else here, Kevin.
Yeah, that's Anton Volodin, and João Vaz made it happen very easily through the hairpin. He's around and scooting on through. And, boy, João Vaz just stormed up on Anton Volodin over the last couple of laps. It was a big gap, and he made mincemeat out of that battle in short order.
Yeah, that'll move Zhao up into the podium if I'm not mistaken, which means he's got to try and chase down Eicher. And actually, well, no, that might not happen because Eicher is getting ready to lap Zhao from what I'm seeing on the course right now. So you have to wonder if Zhao hadn't been making those mistakes with those black flag penalties, I mean, what could have been on the cards, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of black flags in the HPDs, Ramon Salas was given a black flag for avoidable contact with Steve Hobbs.
Let's see if we can find out what happened. He just served that penalty right now. I'm trying to zip through and see if we can see where that contact was made.
Well, I can tell you Steve Hobbs is not on the track at the moment.
Oh yeah, that was into Degner 1, and that was a full-on barge. And wow, heavy hit from Steve Hobbs out of Degner 1. That was full speed, just had no chance to slow down into the barriers. And that had to have done some decent damage to Salyas as well. So those two took a very bad hit. Well, meanwhile, let's take just a bit of a glance back up front to Troy Schultz, who continues to lead, even though we haven't mentioned much of him. And he's got a 21-second lead so far, it looks like, Kevin.
Yeah, showing the 21 seconds last time by at the line, 23 live as Troy's on the backstretch approaching 130R. But he's had a nice run. He's kept it pretty clean. I've put some eyeballs on him occasionally and caught him getting pretty loose a couple of times in some of the high downforce corners, which kind of suggests to me that, yeah, he is definitely low on downforce. But Troy's been having a good run so far, running by himself, running clean, and he's doing okay. And it sounds like the stewards have issued João Vaz a warning to, quote, clean up his driving, end quote. So João Vaz is not making a lot of friends here today.
Wow, that... he obviously is not put himself on the good side of the stewards. They really want to run a tight ship here. And interestingly, I'm watching between him and Eicher. They are not on the same lap, but Eicher seems to have decent pace himself because he's been closing in on Zhao. I don't know if that's due to traffic or what, but he's been holding on to the back and closing in at certain points.
Yes, Eicher is definitely a quick driver. He showed some pretty good pace in practice this morning, and had a pretty good qualifying lap. I think Joao's a little bit quicker overall on a clean track, but we're seeing right now what if you've got that skill to be able to run with multi-class cars, that can really help you out over the course of the race. As Iker Stefania, even though he might be a little slower, is getting ready to lap Joao.
And I'm very curious how the stewards are going to see this with Zhao, if they're actually going out of their way to tell him, clean things up, if they're going to allow him into the series, because this isn't the first race yet. This is just the qualifier. I know it is dependent on how you finish as whether you qualify, but I wonder if they're going to pay attention as well to behavior on track. If they're going to say, no, we're sorry, we don't allow drivers that can't handle 3 classes on the track. We'll have to maybe check and see if they're going to be paying attention to that and take that into consideration.
Raymond Sales was just off track, guys.
Yes,
And got back on track now. He's just kicked off again.
He's currently heading through the hairpin. Oh, and that was a car beside him. That was David DeRoche, who had lost it, looped it around out of the hairpin. That is in C2 class, and he was holding down 4th position for what I see. I'm not sure if he lost it or not. Looks like, yeah, he's got quite a ways back to Stefan Overgaard, so David is still holding down 4th, didn't really lose anything there.
Yeah, David, that's the second time he's been off the track in this in 2 laps. Approaching the last turn, I forget the name now. He was attacked by a couple of C1 cars, and he was closing up on another C3 car, and he took the long route around and went into the no-go zone and got a slowdown, and then he spun the car there as well. So not having a good few laps right there.
And I'm looking at some of our information that we're getting. Dusty, I hear that Valentini is trying very hard to try and catch up to Omar.
Yeah. I mean, I think my prediction was sort of correct. I think Omar was maybe playing it conservative when he was behind Valentini. He's got a little bit smoother of a style, and that's paying off here later in the race. So the gap is opening up. And if you watch Valentini, he's a bit more of an aggressive driver, and I think that's maybe holding him back a little bit. But he's certainly putting everything into this race to try to make up that 2nd place again.
And that's something that I think for those not familiar with racing, or at least very intimately familiar, exciting drivers, the ones that are just hanging it out, it makes a difference in the end, because these races are not just 1-lap sprints. You could look incredibly fast, but that doesn't mean you are incredibly fast, and especially not over a long period.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all about, in these long races, being able to run both different styles, because you've got to be able to run conservatively and fast, to keep your tires fairly cool, use a little bit less gas that way a lot of times, so you can really keep the pace up and everything like that. But it's the drivers that can do that and can then push it that extra bit and push, 105, 110% out of the car for the 2 laps that you really need to make the spot right when you need to do it.
And we're getting word that something else is going on. I'm trying to get clarification from our spotter here and what exactly is going down, because we're being told that something is happening. And it sounds like Valentini was catching us, so it was actually what we were watching there. But that's still not actually kicked off. I apologize for that. We are hearing that Lars is having some more grip issues because he is sliding around. That is up in the HPD. Lars is actually up into 5th, though, so he's got himself into the top 5. Slow but steady has been working for him, at least.
Yeah, he's got even more damage on the front of his car than I remember having. So I think he got into something somewhere that I didn't see. But it's definitely starting to cause him some grief right now, as I think he just doesn't have any downforce on the left front of his car.
We've got 20 minutes left to go in this race, less than 20 minutes, I believe. So things are winding down. Guys are going to have to start making a move if they want one. Guys like Omar and Tom are going to have their battles start to play out and really close the gap. as things are getting towards the end of this race. I'm hearing that we've got a battle, though, between Allman and Fladmark. That is in C3 class, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like Bjorn and Andreas are very close together. They're currently coming through the Dunlop curve, and Almensberger is actually, he's maybe what looks like less than a second behind as they close in here, Dusty.
Oh yeah, look at these guys. These are the two guys. They've been running a little bit farther back, but they've been running a pretty good pace. And looks like they finally closed up on each other. I gotta wonder if I don't know how far back they are from Omar and Tom, but depending on how traffic goes, there's a chance with a lot of competition here for all four of these guys to get together.
And that was a C2 car of Francisco Albert weaving his way through those C3 cars, I'm sorry, and has made his way through. So this battle is able to resume. In fact, they're very close now. Andreas seems to have a bit of pace on Bjorn as they come up towards 130R here. So maybe he's going to start looking for opportunities and paying attention to the braking zone of Bjorn, see if there's any chinks in the armor.
Absolutely, and it's not just him. Tom Valentini is starting to make moves on Omar. He's closed that gap back up. In fact, he's pulling around for a pass on a straight right now. Didn't quite make it. But
Valentini's actually spun. So Valentini is around in turn 1. His car is stopped on the track.
Oh, yeah, look at that. He's out in the grass. He was pushing really hard to try to get past and pushed it just a little bit too hard. It came in and bit him.
And you can see on the replay, that's so easy to do in that turn 1. It's such a scary corner because it basically just leads right into 2. It's kind of taken as one single corner, and with the curved braking and that strip of AstroTurf around the outside with little grip, I have to say, I don't blame him in pushing and making that mistake. It's so easy to do that there.
Yeah, if you saw heading into that corner, he kind of peeked around Omar a little bit. And I think he probably didn't get back into his braking zone in time to get slowed down as much as he would have liked to have been. So he got a little eager and stepped out of where he needed to be.
Well, that battle seems to have been neutered, unfortunately, but we still have Fladmark and Almensberger still very close together, and that is back in 4th and 5th position in C3 class. They've got another, that's Stefan Overgaard, going by them in the C2 class, coming up towards the hairpin. They're going to break them up just momentarily, and hopefully it should be able to resume as Stefan goes quite wide through the hairpin there. And wow, actually it looks like Andreas lost a huge chunk of time. Just a big distance between him and Fladmark now there.
Yeah, definitely. It's the traffic's getting really hairy at this point. These guys are trying to run really close. They're trying to compete. You know, tires getting hot, traffic moving around. You know, Valentini might slow down a little bit and get back in with those guys.
And Stefan Overgaard just spun on the outside of Spoon as he was trying to let an HPD car by. He might have just glanced the wall. He's able to continue, gets back on the track, and he's lost a lot of time, though. He's currently holding down 5th in the Corvettes, Richard.
Yes, indeed. In fact, there are only 5 Corvettes left in this race. I can tell you that Ruben Velasco has had a few problems in the past few laps. Nearly spun out on a couple of occasions and had to check up severely, and that's given Albert a sniff that he could catch him. If you look at the gap between the two of them now, it's about 4 seconds. So Albert has been getting the better of the latter part of this race, and with a little bit of luck, he might actually catch Velasco, and we might get a battle going.
You know, with it seems like these guys have been incredibly evenly paced throughout the course of this race, because they haven't been too far apart for for most of it. It seems, Richard.
Yes, that's true. Although the gap was a lot bigger than it is at the moment. Right now, Albert can actually see him, and in fact, it looks like there was another problem that Velasco had, because I think it's closed up even a little bit more. So I'll keep an eye on this, because it could develop into a great battle towards the end portion of this race, Joe.
But I have to admit, looking at Albert's paint job, I really enjoy that black and orange, very aggressive looking car. And he's certainly making good of it, of that reputation there towards the end.
Absolutely, and he definitely looks like he's closing up slowly but surely on Velasco. So fingers crossed we'll have a great battle at the end of this race here. And by the way, these two guys are way ahead of the other three. So definitely there's only 2 horses or 2 cars, I should say, in this race, Joe.
Yeah, and those guys are just showing their experience, and I'm pretty sure that these two are really going to be 2 of the major guys to watch as this series progresses. We're getting word that Cardoso and Zanchi are showing very good form, so why don't we hop over back to C3 once again. We haven't talked about Zhao a whole lot leading his class. He's actually dealing with some lap traffic with Jarrett Lawson. He's going to try and sneak by on the outside. Yeah, just gets by before the hairpin. And he's been doing an excellent job. Just really hasn't seemed to be troubled by anybody, Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys, you know, now first and second place, have been running real smooth, real conservative. You know, Zhao's going to be a scary force in this series because, you know, when you see a guy like this who can run the fast lines and run them consistently and keep his cool, you know, that's hard to deal with. You know, sometimes you get one of those guys a little further back in the pack, and then you have situations like Zhao Vass, perhaps, where he doesn't deal with the traffic as well. But, you know, in these multi-classes, the traffic's everywhere. This guy's obviously got a cool head about him. Omar, maybe not quite as good of a line, but I think he's got the nerve. And if he can pick up his speed a little bit throughout the series, I think he and Zhao could make quite a competitive force.
Absolutely, and with guys like Zhao, it's almost kind of like a triple threat sort of thing. You've got the speed, you've got the smoothness, and you've got the knowledge of going through the traffic. It's like, it almost reminds me of James Stevenson in the Conti series, where it's someone that just is unflappable, and like you said, it's intimidating because you kind of want those mistakes to happen, but you can't find any cracks in the armor.
Right, yeah, and exactly. And, you know, some of it's driving the car, some of it's dealing with traffic. You know, obviously he puts in fast lap times, but how many times does he see an HPD coming up behind him and decides, you know what, I can lose that half a second and let him go by, and doesn't get him into these situations where, you know, it doesn't matter if it's his fault or not, he's still going to be losing.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that we haven't touched on, is discretion. And the way of how you let people by, knowing we talk about this with other drivers, because some drivers might feel themselves unlucky, they keep running into things, but it's like you said, you put yourself into certain situations. You have to be aware of what's developing and knowing where things are going to wind up. It's not where you are on the road, it's where things are going to wind up down the line.
Yeah, it's kind of one of these things like growing up with my father. My father was a UPS package car driver for over 30 years, and they take driving safety extremely seriously. And the deal is, you know, like if you're involved in an accident, it doesn't matter if it's your fault or not. It's still a mark against you. It's kind of like the safety rating system and iRating. It all averages out. It doesn't matter if it's your fault or not. Could you have avoided it? And in racing, that's such a big deal. Some guy could come up inside of you on a line that he didn't deserve to have, and you could assert yourself, and both of you guys might get wrecked. And you have to look back and think, hey, was that a battle worth fighting? Was it worth dropping out of the race for?
Very much
Guys,
so.
I got to break in here. The gap between Albert and Velasco is now 2 seconds, which is halved since we last spoke. So definitely Francisco is catching Ruben. We're going to see a battle here before this race is over, guys.
And that's what we've needed to see in this class. C2's needed a shot in the arm, but with the way that so many cars have dropped out, I think this just goes to show, as we see traffic start to hold up Velasco coming around towards the start-finish line, this could be the opportunity that Albert needs to really close the gap. But this goes to show just how tough these powerful Corvettes are to handle, Richard.
Absolutely, and I think Velasco is struggling. I don't know whether during the pit stop he took tires. I would have hoped that he did, but look at the gap now. There's nothing in it. We now have a battle for the first place in C2 with Ruben Velasco holding on desperately and Francisco Albert challenging for that first place, Joe.
Yeah, I was just about to say this is something that we haven't seen a whole lot of so far in this race, is a challenge for the lead. So these guys are racing for all the marbles in their class with only 10 minutes to go. That was really a boon for Albert to try and close that gap with that traffic holding up Ruben coming out of that final turn. And he is, oh man, it's like we say sometimes, you can smell the blood. That just gets the adrenaline going, and now he's probably going to be pushing even harder.
Absolutely. Velasco is not going to let him off easy. Velasco is a very, very good driver, but Albert has he's got the bit between the teeth, so to speak, and he wants that first position. So go for it, Francisco. We've got our fingers crossed for you, and for Ruben. I mean, we just enjoy seeing a good battle.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how these two play out, because Albert definitely seems one who tried to play the patient game early on in the race, just kind of hold back, run his race, know that there's a long way to go and it'll come to him if he has the pace. So it's definitely paying dividends right here with just a few laps to go. We're on lap 41 for these guys at the moment, and I think if he can just close it up a little bit more, as it looks like another mistake from Velasco coming through the Casio triangle, and this is it. He's within, within a distance that he could probably utilize that draft just a little bit, and he's going to have some opportunities if he keeps his eyes open.
Absolutely, and I did notice Velasco has had problems through Casio a couple of times. He's pretty good through this part of the course and through the S's here. He seems to make up some time on Albert, but this battle is a genuine battle, and it's for the #1 place in this class. Ruben Velasco and Francisco Albert. Good on these guys.
I believe this is possibly the closest battle that we've got at the moment. If any of you other guys see something going on, please break in. But right now, I want to stick with this because these guys have got a thriller developing. I have to wonder, this is really where we're going to see what kind of stuff Ruben is made of. We've already seen some mistakes, but some guys are sweating bullets. Other guys are just, cool cucumbers inside that car. And what kind of guy is Ruben inside the car when the pressure is on?
Yes, that's what we want to see. I think he is a pretty cool character as he slides through that hairpin there and does it pretty well and gains some time now on Francisco. But Francisco is pretty good through this part of the track and down the straightaway towards 130. So let's see him close up once again. And when they get back to Casio, that's when we will see. I think, to be honest, I think Ruben still has a small advantage in that he's pretty cool and he has been leading from the front all day, but now the pressure is on. So let's see if he can maintain that coolness now that he is under pressure, John.
Yeah, and I know if I was Albert, I'd probably be watching into the Casio triangle like we were saying, see him close up right now under braking. This time Velasco did a much better job, much smoother through there. But seeing the couple of wobbles that he had before, I would think that's possibly, if he can just get a run coming out of 130R, that maybe that's a good chance with that heavy braking zone to try and just slip one up the inside.
That's right, because through most of the other part of the course, particularly through the S's here, as we mentioned before, Velasco is pretty good and probably slightly better than Francisco. But Francisco's hanging on pretty well at the moment, Joe. And we have a slower car up front there. This could change things up a little bit.
Yeah, this is where, once again, that multi-class traffic experience is going to come into play. We got to see how Ruben deals with this. So far, these guys, I would say they probably got the chops in traffic because they're the ones that are just blowing doors on everybody throughout the course of this race. Coming up to this MP4, is he going to be able to sneak by? It looks like that is Cedric Finzak, and yeah, he slows down coming up towards the hairpin. Lets Velasco by, but now he's going to hold up Albert. So now Albert is going to have to try and get by and make time. Yes, he's just going to out-accelerate him coming up through this long right-hander. So he's lost a bit of time, and that's just given a little bit of breathing room to Ruben.
Well, there's not much time left on the clock, that's for sure, Joe. So whatever Albert needs to do, he needs to do it very soon as he comes through the spoon. And we have an HPD coming in between them right there.
And that is Iker Estefania, the second place HPD overall, the only other car on the lead lap at the moment. And just, oh wow, you can see visibly the just how much faster in a straight line those Corvettes are. And unfortunately, that hurt our second place Corvette there. But now there's trouble in trying to get by the Corvette leader for Eicher, as it looks like Ruben held him up through Casio. I'm not sure if that held up Ruben much, but it seemed like those two were getting a little bit tangled through there.
Yeah, and the straight line speed of the Corvette is pretty evident as they go down into turn 1 and 2. You could see that the HPD could not get by, but he should blow by now as they go through the S's. Mind you, Velasco still holding on, and Eicher not taking the opportunity or taking the chance of trying to force a pass there, which is good driving. But this is definitely going to give an opportunity to Albert to get close once again as Eicher goes past now. Can Albert capitalize on this? Not at this point in time. They're still all very close, Joe. It's going right down to the wire.
I honestly think that was probably the best place for Eicher to try and do that. He knows he doesn't have anybody he's trying to fight, and these two are battling for the lead. So the last thing he wants to do is screw that up for those guys, because he's got nothing on the line if he just waits, for a few corners. But you're right. This has definitely helped Ruben, because look at just how much he's closed the gap. He is a lot closer now, especially into that hairpin. And with about, let's see, we've got 3 minutes left on the clock. So these guys are running out of opportunities, like you mentioned. And whoa, we've got a C3 car. Yes, it's just everyone getting very hairy.
Huge slide there by Ruben. Sorry, Joe. And he managed to hold on to it. How he did that, I really don't know, because he was gone for all money.
Yeah, I was impressed. Everyone kept their cool in all of that, because things were just going crazy for a moment. And amazingly, the gap stayed just about the same. I think Albert closed just a little bit, and here he is under braking once again. Very good coming into Casio. See if he can get the power down early enough to just try and keep that gap together. We might have only 1 or 2 laps left for these cars as we're getting close to the white flag here.
I gotta say, Joe, Ruben, my hat is off to Ruben. He's hanging on and holding on very well, and he utilizes the parts of the track that he's good at. As we see Albert closing up completely now, he's right on the back of him. If you look at the cockpit view of Albert, oh, an HPD coming through. I believe that is our friend Vaz coming through like a bullet out of a gun there.
And if I were them, if I'd seen anything of what Vaz has been doing earlier, I'd be very careful, trepidatious around him, because Vaz seems like he just really wants to get by. I'm not sure if he's trying to catch someone or run away from someone. In fact, Vaz doesn't have anybody near him, so he probably needs to be patient like Eicher did with these two battling for the lead. Just kind of let them play it out, wait for the right opportunity where his car is stronger than these two Corvettes, and that's definitely not going to be on the straights. And just wait for the right time rather than try and break up this fight.
Yeah, you know, every time when Albert has been getting close to Velasco and hopefully trying to make a move on him, another car's either come in between them or a car's come ahead of him. That Velasco's had a good use of making the other car a little bit of a pick. As they go now through Spoon once again, there's all kinds of smoke going on there as people are heavy braking, but
whoa, three wide moment. Whoa, that was a bit scary, but João Vaz managed to hold on to it. So did Ruben Velasco. Good job to David DeRoche for trying to stay out of the way there. And now Albert is able to get through too. In fact, he's closing up quite a bit through 130R. Is he going to have a chance breaking into Casio? He's a long way back. No, he's not. Not quite close enough to make anything happen. Let's see if he can get on the power once again, coming out of the final corner up to the start-finish line. Just losing a bit of the speed through the accordion effect. And I think we might be able to get the white flag this time by. Let's see if it is. We're actually waiting on Troy Schultz to give us the white flag. So I think next time that he goes by the line should be giving us the white flag. And he is in Spoon currently.
Well, it's desperation time for Francisco Albert at this point. If he wants to take that position away. Somehow, I don't think, unless we have Velasco making a big error, he's going to make it, because Velasco has proven that he can hang on to that first place. And let's face it, Albert has thrown everything at him, Joe.
Every time that Andreas has managed to try to make a move on Bjorn, traffic has got in the way of him, but this time he finally made it.
And we got to jump in. Checkers are out. We were wrong about the white flag. We've got to apologize. So there goes Troy Schultz across the checker flag. He has won the Suzuka Invitational.
And Troy Schultz putting a stamp early on his dominance, and we've got a long way before the next car, 45 seconds back last time at the line for Eicher, so we have a ways before calling him for second. So let's stop back in on some of those battles. I'm seeing that Ruben does have Francisco fairly close, but it's going to take a good move and some good driving from Francisco to make something happen. I see that Eicher is in front of them. In fact, Eicher is coming to the start-finish line now, so we're going to call him as he takes second place in this qualifying race. Eicher doing a good job to hold on, keeping it clean and steady throughout, but takes second in the C1 class. Let's go back to that battle, Richard, because I see they're coming up to the Casio Triangle right now, and I don't think he's close enough to do it.
No, I don't think so either. We've seen that Velasco's pretty good out of Casio, as he's just proved right there. So it looks like Ruben Velasco will win the C2 class. And Francisco Albert, a great drive from him, from both these drivers. A great fight right at the end there, but Velasco does win it.
And in the meantime, I apologize that we missed it. João Cardoso did take first in the C3 class. Excellent win for him. Omar Zonchi, I believe, is actually just coming to the line now, it looks like, Dusty.
Yep, he's just finally pulling through to the finish. A very, very hard-won second place for him. Followed him, we still have Tom Valentini was still holding on there in third. I think he's probably most of the order, unless somebody goes off track on this last lap. Most of the order is pretty set. Andreas did manage to get behind or get past Bjorn, and.
In the meantime, I see that João Vaz, despite all his troubles, did manage to complete the podium in the C1 class. It looks like there was a lot of trouble for a lot of guys through there because only 2 of them finished on the lead lap. In the meantime, third place in C2 was Kevin O'Keefe, who was kind of anonymous during this race. We didn't talk a whole lot about him, but well done to Kevin. And third place, as you mentioned, Tom Valentini rounding out C3 for the podium in that class. We are going to hop to break. We're going to come back with a special award. We're going to discuss who is going to get that real quick, and we'll run through the standings after the break. Enjoy the commercials. Stay with us for the interviews. Welcome back to Suzuka International Circuit, where we just saw the qualifying race for the new EnduroPro series. The first chapter is down, or I guess you could say maybe that it's the prologue. It's been an interesting one, and there was definitely a lot of casualties along the way in this difficult circuit with these difficult cars to drive. But for the results, Troy Schultz has won it overall and in his C1 class in the HPDs. Iker Estefania finished 35 seconds back, way down there, but on the lead lap in second. João Vaz took third. Anton Volodin took fourth. Lars Conrad took fifth. Sixth was Anthony Kopek, and seventh was Ramon Salles. Then in eighth and in first in C2 class, Ruben Velasco took the win in the Corvettes. Then behind him in second, it's Francisco Esteve Albert. Then third, it's Kevin O'Keefe. And then I'll hand off to Kevin for the next 10 drivers.
Thanks, Joe. 11th overall was David Desroches. 12th was Stefan Overgaard. 13th, and the winner of the C3 class was João Cardoso. 14th, Omar Zanke. 15th, Tom Valentini. 16th, Andreas Almensberger. 17th, Bjorn Erik Fladmark. 18th, Jaden Conwright. 19th was Mark Hewitt. 20th is Jarrett Lawson. And for the rest, we'll go to Richard.
And in 21st place, 6 laps down, was Mike Sargent. In 22nd place, Cedric Finsack. In 23rd place, 8 laps down, Derek Waller. And I do believe that the rest of the field were DNFs. Steve Hobbs, João Oliveira, Chris Nautrip, John van der Heest, Aaron Hamilton, Dennis Garisi, and in 30th place, Manuel Sanchez. Joe?
So a lot of drivers throughout the field, and only a few made it to the end. We'll have to see how this plays out for the rest of the season, as the stewards will have to get together and discuss who gets into the series, as this was only the qualifier. However, we have a special award to give out, the Driver of the Race, presented by D Designs, and he is going to get a special paint job from them. And the driver that won this time was Troy Schultz for his incredible and dominant drive for the overall win. We were all incredibly impressed with him. And in fact, we have Kevin Brown, who's getting ready to interview Troy, and I'll hand over to Kevin.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Troy, it was an exciting start of the race for you, but pretty quickly it became kind of a one-man show, and you stamped your name all over that one. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, I was just sitting back there, and I didn't know. Joe was faster than me. I was just seeing if I could force him into a mistake by staying close.
You know, it seemed earlier on to me that maybe you had a little bit less downforce than Joao did. Does that seem right to you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the car just slides around so much, and I can't feel it very well, but I didn't get a good handle this week.
Well, either way, that was a pretty fantastic run, it looked like, from you. How does that make you feel about the rest of the series?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, once I got out front and got a little bit of a gap, I just put in some nice steady laps and didn't make any big mistakes.
Well, it was certainly enough that we're giving you the D-Designs Award for Drive of the Race today.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Troy, and best of luck for the next race.
All right, see you in a couple weeks.
Next up, we have Richard, who's ready to talk with Kevin O'Keefe, the third-place finisher in the C2 class in the Corvettes.
Kevin, congratulations on your third place in the C2 class. There weren't a lot of finishers in the race. Only 5 of you finished the race out of about 12 or so. How did you find this race?
Well, it's always been my motto to have patience, patience, patience. So it worked for me in this one because I don't have pure pace. So patience paid off and got me a podium.
Absolutely. How did you find the traffic, particularly those really fast HPDs coming through at full speed, and then having to deal also with the slower class, the MP4s?
Well, I got lucky that the HPDs really caught me in good spots. I think there was only one spot where they had to run behind me in the S's, so no problem there. I had trouble passing the leader of the McLarens because I didn't change tires on my pit stop, which probably was a mistake. So I had trouble getting traction off the corners. So I spent basically a whole lap behind the leader of the McLaren trying to pass him.
Yeah, it's difficult with this multi-class race. Are you loving it, or are you apprehensive about the coming series? What are your thoughts?
Well, I love endurance racing and I love multi-class racing. That's why I signed up. And, you know, it's just something different than the ovals, which I normally run and stream on my YouTube, which is at youtube.com/RuckersKev. But, yeah, I actually love it so much. I'm hosting another 2-hour race at Road Atlanta, which is pretty much starting immediately after this. You guys are cutting into my lunch break.
Excellent. Well, Kevin, we congratulate you on your third place here tonight or today, and we wish you all the best for the coming series. Hopefully you'll be up there on the podiums as the races come through. So thanks for talking to us.
Thanks for broadcasting.
Back to you, Joe.
Well, we also have the winner in the C3 class in the MP4s, and that is Joao Cardoso here with us. Joao, it seemed like it was kind of a non-race for you for most of it. You held steady up front. Was the traffic ever a problem? Because it seemed a little hectic in some places.
It was pretty hectic. It's one of the things I like about multi-class. There's never a dull moment. Every single lap, you're being lapped or lapping somebody. In this case, yeah, you're right. I would have liked a bit more close fights, but it was never actually dull because I was minding my fuel mileage. I thought we were going a lap extra, so I was saving fuel.
Well, you definitely did a good job to calculate it right, because you came away with a pretty decent lead over Omar in second. What were your thoughts on some of the HPD's behavior? Because it seemed like at times there were some very aggressive moves going on.
I did see the messages from race control. I'm pleased to say I didn't see anything around me. I didn't have any problems. Everybody with me, at least, was extremely courteous. I have nothing but good things to say about traffic, but again, I can only speak for what happened around me.
Well, at least it was a positive impression. I have to say, or I would imagine that it's safe to say you're looking forward to this season then, with probably some good competition and some great racing.
who knows? I can't really predict anything.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you at round 1 in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, guys, and thanks to Mario and the rest of the guys for putting up this competition and hosting this race.
Absolutely. We have one more driver to talk to. That is the HPD driver of Anton Volodin. Kevin's got him.
Anton, welcome to the booth. That was an exciting run for 4th place you had today.
Yes, hello. First of all, you pronounced my second name incorrectly. It's Volodin, actually. But anyway, yes, it was an interesting race. I made a lot of mistakes, made an accident, caused an accident, which was pretty unfortunate. I didn't practice all that much, so yeah, really hard race, but nice.
Well, apologies on the last name. We'll make sure we get that correct for the next round. Speaking of which, how are you feeling for the next round? It's at Daytona.
To be honest, I've never ran Daytona at all. Like, I had 1 hour of practice in the roof, but I think it's an awesome track. Although it's an oval, but I really want to race it, and I want to practice more and get on the podium.
Yeah, you were definitely within a whisker of that happening today. Maybe a little bit more luck, I think, with Daytona, and that could happen, huh?
To be honest about today's race, maybe my car was damaged. I was losing a second per lap. I had 3 spins. My fault. But yes, I can make it to the podium at Daytona.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much for showing up today, Anton.
Thank you for broadcasting.
Well, right before we close up, I want to get everybody's thoughts on how this one went, with it being round 0 and like I said, the first chapter in the race. Kevin, I'll start with you. What did you think of this race?
Well, it kind of played out a little bit like I thought. The battle I thought was always going to be between Troy Schultz and Joao Vaz, and it definitely was for the first few laps before Joao made the contact with, I believe it was a Corvette, I forget now, and then Troy Schultz. Wow, what an absolutely dominant run that he had after that. So that was well done from the pointy end of the HPD field.
Richard, we didn't get a whole lot of you till the very end. What did you think about this race?
Well, I just enjoyed the multi-class aspect of this race. I thought that going into the race that it would be fairly, pedantic with everybody just in a procession. But within 12 laps, the fast cars, the HPDs, were starting to lap traffic, and then within another few laps, we had the C2 class starting to lap the C3. So it made for some very exciting racing. A bit scary, I'm sure, if you're a driver, but I thoroughly enjoyed the whole race, Joe, and I'm looking forward to the series.
And I know for the C3 class, I was very impressed with some of the driving in there, and it seemed like there's a lot of guys that were mixing it up very well. I think we're going to see some of the very closest racing in that class, with it being the most popular. But we also have, real quick before we go, we have Mario Beaudry with us to talk about this series. He is one of the league organizers and one of the stewards. Mario, what were your impressions?
Well, it was a hectic start to a series, I believe. We ran into some technical problems, but all in all, I'm pretty proud of the drivers out there. I think they did a good job today.
How is this qualifying race going to affect who makes it in? What are the stewards' stance on how things wound up today?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get as much drivers as we were hoping for. So the next rule was you had to be at least 105% within the fastest guy on your class, and everyone was. So they're all going to be part of the series.
Excellent news to hear. We're looking forward to this one. This race was a lot of fun to call, and I have to say there was some great action throughout it. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, thanks for the broadcast. We're really impressed with GSRC's professionalism, and we're eager to get them for the season.
Well, we are glad to be on board. We'll close up now and give some thank yous. Obviously, thank you to D Designs for their award, and thank you to Mario Beaudry for his efforts in organizing this. We also want to thank the software and hardware that we use, iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio-Technica, and AverMedia. Thanks to the team today, Giancarlo, Kevin Brown, Richard Losper, Dusty Peterson, and also to our spotter, Brian Corwin. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at facebook.com Global Sim Racing Channel. If you'd like to find out more about this series, we also have a Twitter and Facebook for this series as well, and that is at EnduroPro Series for Twitter and the same thing for Facebook. So go give them a look and like their page and follow their Twitter. A special thank you to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. You can find it not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Also, thank you to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with music for our broadcasts. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. Definitely recommend checking that out. Our next race for this series is going to be round 1 at Daytona, as we said, and that is going to be a nighttime race. It's going to be interesting to throw that into the mix. That'll be February 1st, and it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Next broadcast that we broadcast will be in an hour. That'll be the Green Valley Lake MX5 World Tour. That takes place at Silverstone. Starts at 2 p.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget, tomorrow we have the Gathering of Tweakers Roof 180. That is at Road America. That starts, as I said, Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be an exciting one. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.